Hello and welcome to the Blood Bowl Diaries, episode 11, with me, Dr. Hellboy.
Me, TheFear.
There we go. Look at that. We remembered how to do the introduction.
Yeah.
It's been a while. It's been a while. I think I guess we should probably just lightly touch on why we haven't been doing the podcast. From my side of things, I kind of burnt myself out a bit with Blood Bowl. I played 4 pretty high-level tournaments at the start of this year. Played the Welsh Championships, Water Bowl, UKTC, and then NAFC. Took them all very seriously, took Lizardmen to all of them, and kind of just found myself not enjoying Blood Bowl. I wasn't getting like super frustrated or anything like that. I just was not enjoying Blood Bowl, and so I needed to step away and take some time away. What about you, Fear? Similar story, or?
Not really. I think as I probably alluded to in the last podcast, it was just sort of, I'd slipped down my list of priorities, really. I just was finding it difficult to find time to play, in against other things that, priorities, kids, family, work, new job, all of that kind of stuff. I think the only tournament I played, I think, probably since the last podcast was the UKC. And I hadn't even played football because I just didn't have the time to commit a big part of anything, in all fairness.
All right, fair enough. You're sounding a little bit robotic there, Fear.
Sorry, bud?
You were sounding a little bit robotic, but whatever you've done, wherever you were holding your microphone device right now is fine. So you turned.
Sorry.
That's all right. You turned a little bit of a robot there towards the end.
So yeah, I was just saying it was just time, really.
Yeah.
Time and it's your hobby, isn't it? And so I suppose it sometimes it can slip when you've got more important life things to do.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, absolutely. I've also been trying to get back to enjoying my hobby time, as it were. So I'm doing a lot more painting again. I'm also getting involved. I've been involved quite a lot with the Star Wars Shatterpoint game. I've been painting and building those figures, playing a lot of Shatterpoint locally because there's some guys doing that. And I've also finally decided it's time to hit middle age and go into the Napoleonics. So I'm starting to go down the historical miniatures route as well. But again, it's about well, it's about having fun, And the Blood Bowl wasn't, and actually stepping away and playing these other games and doing things which weren't trying to be like super competitive, super focused on the Blood Bowl has actually meant that when I've gone back and played in a couple of tournaments, which we will be talking about on this podcast, I've actually enjoyed myself probably more than I have for a long time playing Blood Bowl, and I put it down to the fact that I remembered how to kind of play a game by doing these other ones,
I think that's absolutely right. I think particularly when you're starting to get involved in Euro Bowl teams and and getting selected for those and the various ways of doing that and the fact that that's can be quite a competitive sort of scenario, it's very easy to take to take the game for it to become too serious and to suck the fun out of actually playing the game and we forget that really we're playing a game and it's supposed to be enjoyable, and you're not supposed to really beat yourself up for weeks afterwards after a tournament or whatever, because you were supposed to go there and have fun, and it's easy to lose sight of that, I think, sometimes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And as I say, these getting back into it with a break. I hadn't played a tabletop tournament in over 6 months before I sat down to roll dice again, and it was lovely. Yeah. It was really, really lovely. So yeah, pretty good.
It was good.
Well, shall we jump into some discussion? We've got I've been to 2 tabletop tournaments, and you've been playing in a Fumble NAF kind of I don't call them live ones today. It's one of the weekly ones, wasn't it? A kind of team one testing out the Euro Bowl rules that are coming for 2024 Euro Bowl. So should we delve into some discussion about our tournaments?
Yeah. I'm quite excited to hear because obviously we haven't spoken about this beforehand, so I'm quite excited to hear about what you've been up to. These tabletop tournaments. Where did you go? Who did you play? What did you take?
Yeah,
And what were your takeaways from it?
yeah. Well, tell you what, I'll do my first tournament because both of them were 4 game ones. So if I do one, and then you can do your first 3 games of your one, and then I'll do my next one, and then you can do your last games. That's probably a nice balance, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So the first one I went to was Screaming Spires 3, run by my very dear and good friend Falling Down Joe. And this was the first tournament I have ever been able to get to by walking out my front door, walking for 2 minutes maximum, climbing onto a bus, being taken to outside the venue, getting off the bus, and walking in.
Wow.
And that, I tell you what, not having to drive to a tournament, being able to literally get on public transport and get to a tournament just with no hassle. It was a 2 minute walk either end maximum. That was lovely. That was really, really nice. So this one was run in Oxford, where Joe lives on the outskirts, and I live a bit further away. But as I say, still within a bus ride. So yeah, so that was really good. I brought orcs. Aha! I knew you'd enjoy this because we've had many discussions, as listeners to the podcast will remember. We've had many discussions around what do we think is the best orc build. Where are we? What do we enjoy seeing? What do we like playing against? What do we not like playing against, etc. And you know what? I think I might have found the orc build.
Did it have 4 big uns in it?
It did have 4 big uns in it. It also had 4 blitzers. It had no troll and no goblin though.
Ooh.
So yeah, I'd considered it for a long time, but then I thought to myself, right, I always like, I always enjoy the concept of the troll when I'm sat down versus someone who's got a troll. But then in reality, I don't really want to play with one. So because of the rolling the one, if it doesn't do what you want it to do, if it won in 9s, you just sat there just feeling sad, aren't you? So I thought I'd rather, and also I could only take 2 rerolls with that build, and I thought actually I'd rather have 3 rerolls and Apo, and know that all my players can do something reliable, if you see what I mean.
Reliability, brilliant. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I took some block, I took some guard, I took some more guard, I took a mighty blow, and I took a tackle because the current meta means that lots of teams either come with dodge or are taking dodge. Orcs got 7 skills in this rule pack, which is why half the teams at the tournament were orc or necro, because necro also had a nice skill set. So half the teams that were there were either orc or necro combined, which was fine. Which was no surprise then when I sat down in my first match against a chap called L Planet 4, who you may have met. I'd seen him at multiple tournaments before, and he too had orcs. So we opened the day with an orc off.
Oh wow!
His build was very similar skill choices. I think he'd taken a frenzy rather than a mighty blow, I think, or rather than a tackle. It was either frenzy over a tackle or a mighty blow. I can't remember which way around. But he had a troll and a goblin.
Okay.
And he'd just come back from the World Cup. That also happened while we were away. That happened, and so yeah, he was in good spirits. He was telling me all the stories from the World Cup and stuff. It was lovely. It was a really nice start to the day. He opened his turn 1 by stunning 2 of my line orcs, and I sat there and thought to myself, is this how it's going to go? But then I responded by killing 1 of his black orcs.
Nice.
So in a bash v bash matchup, orc versus orc, the team that is actually taking players off the pitch tends to do kind of all right. And certainly he found himself getting a bit stuck. He got a little bit sticky. There was a failure that occurred at one point. I don't think it was the troll. I think it was a black orc rolled a 1 in 9. Something like that happened, and the turn ended prematurely. And
Yeah.
I wasn't able to sack at that point, but I was able to put the squeeze on, put the pressure in, and as I say, and I did break quite a fair amount of armor. Like it was pretty hot, but then again, I was trying to hit with the mighty blow, quite a lot, and when you take the advantage, it was quite a swingy game in those first kind of like 3 or 4 turns, because we were just. You're not necessarily dodging away, so you're just standing players up. They're getting hit. They're going on their backsides again. You're standing them up again. Then when his turn has the problem and his turn ends prematurely, it then kind of flips to me, where I'm the one doing the hitting and he's the one doing the standing up, and so yeah, and eventually he got a bit stuck. I was able to sack the ball. He then sacked me back, but by this point it was looking very, very unlikely that he was going to get the score. And the half actually ended with me having. I think I needed a 3-3, probably an animosity in there as well. I think I needed a 3-3, 2-2 to score on his drive, but I failed the first 3+ with the reroll. These things happen, but I put myself in that position, so we went into my drive 0-0.
I think, I think in those bash on bash matchups, if you can, it sounds really stupid and really simple, but if you can get ahead in the blocking war, then it just you can kill your opponent's drive if they lose their momentum and they can't push forward. And as you say, you can't dodge away. So once your stuff's getting knocked out, well, you can dodge away, but it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
really
you're
as
not.
reliable as an elf team, is it? So
Yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think the other thing is as well is that when that error or in this case the unfortunate dice roll, if the opponent makes an error or there's an unfortunate dice roll, you have to capitalize on it. We've talked about
yeah,
that before, and it's recognizing those moments, and that's something that I didn't feel I'd kind of lost, if you see what I mean. Like, I hadn't played tabletop in a while, but I saw the moment and was like, okay, now this is the turn to do this now. Let's go. So I go into my drive 0-0. Then the kind of the reverse sort of happens. I'm the one getting a bit bogged down, and I kind of had to do a few kind of get out of jail plays. Unfortunately, as L Planet was stunning my orcs. I think we each removed an orc at that point, or maybe we removed one and I appoed my KO kind of thing. It was still very tight. And in the end, I had to kind of go for a Hail Mary kind of play, and I managed to break through a corner and do a. I'm pretty sure there was a couple of 3+ dodges in there, which just had to be done because I just couldn't see a way through otherwise. Got a kind of screen up, and unfortunately then when he went for the sack, it failed. The 1D failed on the sack, and I was able just to walk the ball in on the final turn. During all of this time as well, I'd actually managed to remove the troll, and so the troll was KO'd, one goblin was KO'd, and the other one was dead. And then the one turn wasn't possible because the troll didn't come back for the final turn of the game. So it didn't really matter anyway. So I started off with a 1-0 win.
vindication for not taking a troll.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I got complete vindication for not taking a troll because that was fine. Yeah. By this point, one game in, I was suddenly starting to feel tired already. When you haven't played for a while, and I was like, oh boy. I remember when I used to be really good at 4-game tournaments. I don't know how I'm going to make it through the next game. So the next game, I sat down and was drawn against a legend. Nippy Longscar had decided to turn up.
Oh wow!
Yes. So game 2 is Nippy with Wood Elves, because Wood Elves got given 7 skills in this rule set, with an option to stack as well.
Nice.
And Nippy'd gone for a really interesting build, got a Tree Man, only 2 catchers because of the costings being a bit weird now on things. A War Dancer with Frenzy and Sure Feet. And
Okay.
No, was it Frenzy and Sprint? It might have been Frenzy and Sprint actually. Yeah, no, it was Sprint. It wasn't Sure Feet. It was Frenzy and Sprint, which was terrifying. And then another one with, what did the other one have? Strip ball. Yeah, it was a strip ball on the other one.
Yeah.
And then a few linemen with skills and stuff. So we sat down. We had a lovely chat. We were chatting away. Really nice guy, Nippy. Absolute pleasure to play against him. And I'm not going to take anything away from Nippy, but my God, I felt like I hadn't played in years when I was playing that game. And very, very early on, Nippy went for a 1D sack on the ball. Like very early on. We're talking turn 2, turn 3. Like hyper aggressive wood elves.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this going, oh boy, I've forgotten how to play versus wood elves, basically. Goes for a leap, rolls a 6, we don't even need to worry about calculating what the leap might have been. A 6 came up on the leap. Pops the ball free, stuns my Mr. Throw, and suddenly I'm in a world of pain. Nippy manages to squeeze in the touchdown for 1-0 on my drive, nice and early. I had taken out a line elf though. I had done some more attrition, but all the KOs came back. But I'm 1-0 down, staring down the barrel. I think I had 3 turns back by the time, because he'd been able to stall. It was beautiful play. I just felt a bit outplayed, to be honest with you. But then I was eyeing up the push to see if I could go and score in 3 turns. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to score in 3 turns. Nippy was desperately trying to see if he could get the second touchdown, and luckily for me, managed to. I think it was the pass that failed.
Oh wow!
Yeah, we got down to that level because I was having to push. I was trying to push to score, and the ball hit the deck at some point. It was So luckily, I only went in 1-0 down going into his drive. Nippy then did a quick score back in the second half. I think I chipped a couple more elves, and I looked at him and I said, "Well, right, we're going to play. We're going to play now. Let's go 2-0 down." Banged the score in as quick as I could, and then tried to chase down to get the 2-2 all. And both Nippy and I really enjoyed that part of the game. It was super tight. It was really close. I was obviously, it was an uphill battle for me the whole way, but it was close to me getting the second touchdown. But in the end, I couldn't quite get there. Nippy kind of caged up in the corner, making it pretty nasty in terms of the dodging in and stuff. So he managed to get the 2-1 win with Wood Elves. But an absolute pleasure to play against, and really fun game. But it was certainly a slap in the face again to go, hang on a minute, you do have to put the reps in sometimes if you're going to be playing against these kind of guys.
I mean, look, you go 1-0 down against Wood Elves on your own drive, you are struggling, right? I mean,
Yeah.
It's difficult to come back from that. And for all the talk about Wood Elves are dead, they're not dead. They're just not like the god tier that they used to be. And in the right hands, with some reasonable behaviour from the cubes, playing them really aggressively can definitely bear dividend, as Nippy's shown there.
Absolutely, and I think Nippy said to me he either lost no games or lost 1 game at the World Cup with Wood Elves.
Oh wow!
So not only and this is the credit to absolute credit to Nippy. I'm not denying that me not having played for a while was a factor, but no, absolute credit. Nippy played a really nice game. Found some beautiful squares to put the players in. Really good. So I'm 1-0-1 at this point, and I find myself in another elf match. High Elves. And I'm playing against a chap called Alchemist, who does listen to the podcast, I know. So if you're listening, hello. So yeah, find
Hi.
myself. Yeah. Do say hi. Do say hi. So
Hi.
yeah, thank you. So I find myself sitting down against high. I was also had a very nice tiering in this tournament. Um, and Alchemist receives. I can't remember who won the toss. And quite early on in the drive, I start to get a bit of a squeeze on, and I'm looking at this going, "Oh, I might be able to get him to score on turn 4, turn 5 kind of timings, or I might be able to sack the ball."
Ooh.
Yeah, so we do sack the ball, but in the process of sacking the ball, we actually gift Alchemist more turns to stall. It's one of those classic ones where if we'd not bothered to sack the ball, Alchemist probably scores that following turn because he can't hide anywhere. Because I
Yeah.
could have put myself between his ball carrier and the rest of the team and gone, right, mate, your choice. Instead, I do sack the ball, and then basically 3 turns later, 3 turns later, then he decides to pop it in and score, following some good elf shenanigans, picking up on a 4, dodging in, picking up on a 4, dodging back out again. So it kind of backfired for me, and I wasn't able to get the score on my short return drive either. Alchemist columning up nicely with elves in the way they do. Uh, so I found myself 1-0 down, and I thought to myself, well, I could kind of just trundle along and try for the draw here, or I can see if I can push to win. And in my mind, I was thinking to myself, well, you're not playing for any reason. Like you're playing for fun. Like there's no pressure here. If it was a Euro Bowl situation, we've discussed this before. If it was a Euro Bowl
Yeah.
situation, you would absolutely sit there and draw. It would be
Yeah.
the most boring half of Blood Bowl, and I would just trundle down 1-1, try and kill the catchers so that the one turn for the High Elves is not viable. Job done. But instead, I decided to push for the win. Unfortunately, I think by pushing for the win, pushing to score, I ultimately sealed my own doom. And also, I managed to lose a Black Orc, a big one, along the way. That was the only player that I had die all weekend. Was in the game versus High Elves.
Wow.
Yeah. I only had one Orc die, and it was against High Elves. Everything else was KOs, or I would Apo the KO and keep them on the pitch.
Huh.
But me suddenly losing that strength 4 piece, the elves not going down. I made a blunder. I left a based up cage. Alchemist took the chance, popped the ball, boom, 2-0. I've got no hard feelings at all. Alchemist said to me at the end of the first half, like he felt that he was lucky to get the score that half. But then I feel I probably didn't play anywhere near as well as I should have done in the second half. So a win for Alchemist is absolutely fine in my books. So there we go. So unfortunately, I could beat the Orcs, but I couldn't do anything against the Elves.
I think this is the one of the issues with. I mean, I know right back at the start of Blood Bowl 2020, everyone got very excited about orcs and the the big uns being movement 5. I've heard this a lot, but I still think one of the things that they struggle with is scoring against edge teams. Um, it can be a difficult process, particularly with the animosity making things just a teensy bit harder, and particularly with the fact that you've got a few players that are Edge 4 plus, and it just I think if people defend properly against them, don't even have to try and sack them, but just try and stop them scoring, which is a slightly different thing. I think it can be an uphill battle against elf teams for to get anywhere near the end zone with orcs.
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. And I think that I play. I'm playing. Nippy and Alchemist both knew what they were doing with the elves. I've got no shame in saying that they played better than me in that game in those games. So So be it. So be it. But I was having fun, and that was
I was
that
going to
was
ask that. I was going to ask that because you and I have known each other for a while. I've known you at tournaments or when we've done these recaps or when we've chatted on Discord about things. And I know that more recently, if you'd found yourself 102 at a tournament, you'd be starting to feel a bit sort of stressed out by it. But how are you feeling at this point in this tournament?
I was feeling absolutely fine, to be honest with you, because I was going
Yeah.
for curry afterwards with three of the other guys. Like
Right. So
the tournament wasn't about the playing. It was there to see friends. It was there to roll some dice, play my orc team that I'd painted up ages ago that 20p had borrowed at a UKTC, but I'd never played with them. I was
wow.
wanting to. It was there were more things than the actual Blood Bowl going on. And that was
Yeah.
that felt really important to do that. So yeah, so no, I was feeling absolutely fine. I mean, I was feeling quite tired, as I
Yeah.
alluded to already. It had been a long week at work before that, and then a couple of hard games. All three of the games I played were not easy.
No.
And I still had one more game left, and I sat down, and it was versus orcs again because
Hey.
half the tournament had brought orcs. So, but this time though, we had exactly the same build in terms of the positionals we'd taken, okay,
Ooh.
but a very different approach in terms of skills.
Okay.
I will say the phrase that, well, I'll say two phrases to you, and you can then let me know how you think the game went, and then I'll talk about it, okay? So, the first phrase that my opponent said was, "Here are the four blitzers. They've all got mighty blow." Okay? And
Okay.
and the second phrase that my opponent used was something along the lines of, "Oh, you chose to take guard. I thought about that, but I didn't. I took mighty blow instead."
So, in a previous podcast, we may have spoken where I played a game in a tournament I won with my Cursed Dwarfs against a human coach who rocked up with four blitzers or with Mighty Blow
Yes, yes, I remember.
and found himself guard locked out of the game
Yep,
effectively.
yep.
And I'm assuming that you've got at least three guard, maybe?
Yeah, I've got three guard. Yeah, I got two guard
Yeah.
big uns and one guard blitzer. Yeah.
Which I think, as we've talked about before, is the orc tipping point. That seems to be the point at which orcs start doing well versus orcs doing badly, is the three guard
Yep.
build.
Yep.
But I'm going to assume that what should have happened is that you guard locked him out of the game. What might very well have happened is he mighty blowed you out of the game. That can't have happened. Surely you're orcs. Surely you guard locked him out of the game.
Well, you'll have to wait and find out. So let's start. So the game began. I think I opted to kick to him. I think I went stuff it. I'm just going to kick to you. Because I'm
Take
not.
my blow.
Yeah,
Get
because
that
I'm
out of
not.
the way.
Yeah, because I'm not afraid of mighty blow.
Oh.
And the game started, and every time he rolled to break armor with a mighty blow player, they rolled an 8, which then turns to a 9, but you need a 10. Okay?
Yeah.
And every time he blitzed with a non-mighty blow player, it rolled a 9. And that's not perception bias. That was
Just what happened.
literally what happened. And what started to happen was when I blitzed, doing my one blitzing action, I chose to disengage, so I wasn't being quite as aggressive with the basing as I had been with L Planet. When I chose to, so I was kind of just like holding the line. And when I blitzed with my mighty blow, and my mighty blow started removing pieces.
Oh, wow.
And basically, so the guy was playing Eric Zan. He found himself very, very quickly pinned into one sideline, guard locked, and having to
Yeah.
do things like one dice blitzes with a non-mighty blow piece to just try and get himself out.
Ooh.
So although he'd brought four mighty blow, one of them gets taken off the pitch quite quickly because I get a chance to have a crack at one, and I think, well, that's the target, let's go, boom, and it leaves the
Yeah.
pitch. But then, because of the situation he's found himself in, he's not able to utilise the mighty blow because they're suddenly the ones that are being pinned in with a, they got two big uns sat on them, one of which has got guard, the other one's got block, and then beside that other guard one's another guard piece, and he just can't shift. He just can't shift the guard.
Yeah.
So basically we comfortably ended the drive 0-0. And I say comfortably, it was a lot more comfortable than against L Planet. But then L Planet's build, had a similar guard number to me. I think it was 3 guard each in that one. It was pretty straightforward. And then we started the second half, and it kind of just continued in the way that it had done. I just trundled my way down the pitch. He started looking for, the 4+ dodge into 3+ dodge into 5+ into 1D.
Yeah.
And then that turned into the 5-5-6, and that turned into the 6-6. And these things happened, right? It reached desperation point, but I was able to kind of trundle down, control the game, and lock in another 1-0 win in the Bash matchup. So I ended the tournament having played 2 Orc teams and 2 Elf teams on 2-0-2.
Well, I mean, really, you ended the tournament 2-0-0 because Elf teams don't count, obviously.
Absolutely. But even though I ended 2-0-0, that was only good enough to get me mid-table.
Okay.
But because I'd missed out on 2 other games, hadn't I? Really, that's the thing.
You get proper teams to play against. Did
Yeah,
you?
exactly. I will give a shout out though to Torquemada, who won the tournament with the brand new vampires.
Oh.
Yep, pretty scary. There was a lot of struggling. I'd say 4-0-0, some good quality players there. I would say, not wanting to.
Come on, Hellboy. They're as broken as everybody says they are.
They are pretty broken. They're in the right hands. They're very good, and I would say that realistically in the room there were probably 6 people there that could have won the tournament. Like there was a caliber of people that turned up. There were only 18 players that turned up. I think it was about 18, and I literally looked down that list and went, "Whew, there's a third of the people here that could win this tournament."
Yeah.
They either have NAF trophies or they are capable of doing it. And so there weren't really many like easy matchups knocking around towards the back end of the day. So I think absolute credit to Torquemada, who made vampires look really good, and I'd be very curious to see how they perform in the Euro Bowl rule sets now going forward, because obviously we're about to touch on your Euro Bowl fumble NAF one. But I think something we need to mention for that though is that it was old vampires in that tournament, because the overlap was coming at the wrong time. The vampires were going to be released at the wrong time. So that's the one team where the data is either non-existent or definitely skewed when we come into that. But I enjoyed myself thoroughly. Had an amazing curry with the boys. Sat down. We had a lovely curry. A couple of whiskies as well. Delightful. Just really, really, really nice day. And I got myself home on the bus, and it was wonderful. So started to feel like I wanted to play Blood Bowl again, which is exactly what I was going for.
And Joe, that's brilliant, because you were someone that really enjoyed the game, and doing things like this, and obviously some of the streaming that you were doing, and your semi-regular appearances on One World One Blood Bowl, and a myriad of other things, commentating for Andy Davo. You were very, very involved in the hobby, and it's probably the poorer for not having you in it. So yeah, if you've found some love again for things, then that's fantastic. You
Yep.
know, that's
Absolutely,
brilliant.
absolutely. And when we come on to my next tournament, you'll hear even more how much I was enjoying myself. But that can wait. Let's leave the audience waiting, and let's jump over now to your NAF. It was a team format, wasn't it? A four person team tournament run on Fumble, weekly, and using what was at that point the kind of what would we say, the beta kind of level of the Euro Bowl rule set, waiting for this one tournament to then tweak the rule set that they were then going to use at Greece.
Yeah, I mean that's my understanding of it. Is that it was, I mean, and certainly they seem to have changed the rules as a result of the stats that came out of the tournament. I think Underworld have had a shuffle in terms of tiers and maybe one or two others. But yeah, I mean, it was very because I mean the rule set itself. I'm not going to run through it because there's a lot. To put it mildly, there's a lot going on,
Yeah, there's a lot,
and
well, and also because it was a testing for what would ultimately be the actual rule set. I think it doesn't. If there's things that crop up where you go, oh, this race I played against was super overpowered and they've now changed it, then that's fair enough. But I think other than that,
oh yeah, I mean
it's
the baseline hasn't changed. So that they gave us it was a team 4 player tournament, and they gave us 4 points to spend, and then with those 4 points, there are 4 different packs. And one pack is two of the packs are worth 1 point, and two of the packs were worth 2 points. And you can apply these. One player in your squad can apply this pack to their team, and it'll do something. So for I think 1 point, you could start stacking skills, for example, and Triple Skull and Joe Manji came up with some disgusting Elven Union builds that utilise putting both dodge and diving tackle onto Elf Union blitzers.
all
And
lovely, lovely.
yeah,
That's a classic. That's a classic Joe Manji there.
yeah. Well, Triple Skull did it as well, so it's
Filthy.
stuff like that. Yeah. So in building, so I played with my usual crew: Golden Gate, Dragonborn, and Speeding Bullet. Golden Gate and Dragonborn wanted no part of the packs, so that was fine. Speeding Bullet took a 2 point pack, so 2 out of our 4 points, and that allowed him to take Varag in his Underworld Denizens team.
Oh
Now,
yuck.
obviously,
Oh yuck.
I think Varag is now banned from the tournament, and Underworld have been moved tier wise, so they get their skills now. So,
So what you're
so
saying, so what you're saying is your team have had an impact in changing the Euro Bowl rule set.
well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think Jim. I mean, I think the average win rate for Underworld in that tournament was 58%, and there was quite a lot of Underworld teams.
That's absolutely disgusting. Underworld
Yeah.
are just scum and villainy, and anyone who plays them needs to have a good hard look in the mirror.
I agree. I agree. Absolutely, yes. Yeah. I mean, Golden Gate took High Elves, fairly sort of standard kind of 3 catcher, 3 reroll kind of build. Dodging blitzers, couple of dodge catchers, 1 wrestle catcher. Everything you'd expect. Block on a thrower, interesting pick, but
Okay.
that's his choice.
Yep.
Dragonborn took humans, which were again pretty popular. Because as you go down the tiering in this tournament, not only do you get more skills, but you get more gold. So it's worth looking out for. He ended up with a 13-player roster with 4 rerolls and an Apo.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
Block thrower, 4 guard blitzers, block ogre, and a wrestle catcher. Not bad. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad. A wrestle catcher as well. Nice in the stunty meta to be taking on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
strength two players, isn't it?
And I think the guy that ended up best individual in the tournament went 6-0 with humans. So they're definitely something that's worth looking out for.
That's credit. That's good.
Yeah, yeah. He's the only guy that went 6-0. So um, I, much to my teammates' obvious delight, feeling that if I was going to try and find time to play, I was going to have to do something I wanted to do. I decided that I was going to take Chaos Chosen.
Well, hey, look at that. I thought you were going to say Chaos Dwarves, and I was going to say, brilliant, we're back to the fear of old. But no, Chaos Chosen. Okay.
Two reasons. One, because I don't think they're that much worse. Well, I do. I know that they are, but part of my brain wants to believe they're not that much worse than orcs. And I wanted to prove it. And also, knowing that they are in fact that much worse than orcs, I thought they'd be good practice for bash matchups because I seem to have done quite well with Chaos Dwarfs. So I thought if I play something that's harder than Chaos Dwarfs, that would help improve my Chaos Dwarf play.
That sounds very much like Cork, Fog, doing the playing Amazons as practice for Dark Elves. Because if you can do it on a 3, you can do it on a 2.
Mm, absolutely. So, and also I just want to I like Chaos Chosen. Have always been kind of one of my favourite races for whatever reason. I don't know why. So I got a bit of extra gold in the rule set, so I ended up with an ogre. I ended up with 4 warriors. I ended up with beastmen, then running me up to 12 players. I also had 3 rerolls, and I also had an Apo.
Oh, nice, nice. And what did you take as skills? 7 block, 8 block?
Well, no. So I again don't know, because we had 2 points left over, no one to spend it. I took the other 2 point pack, which gave me 1 extra skill.
Okay.
Um, the caveat on having that 1 extra skill is that you can't use it to have more than 3 of any particular skill.
Oh yeah, this thing. Yeah, so you can't have you. Yeah, you can have 6 guard, or you can have 7 skills, but you're only allowed 3 guard at that point, kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So whereas probably I'd have gone because I would have followed the kind of orc skill guideline and gone 2 block warriors, 2 guard warriors, which I did. Guard on a beastman, block on a beastman, and then I'd probably been looking to spend 2 skill points to put block on an ogre. But this pack meant I couldn't do that. So
Yeah, yeah.
what I ended up doing was I ended up going 2 block, 2 guard on the warriors. It's working for orcs, so let's try it with chaos. Yeah. You need 3 guards, so guard beast, block beast. No reason not to do that. A sure hands beastman, because I figured there's going to be some strip ball knocking around. 2 wrestle beastmen, and then I use my 2 skill points for my ogre to give him pro.
Okay, pro, an interesting choice, but given the fact that you can't take the block, seems pretty logical.
Yeah, I've used it before in a Minotaur for a Chaos Dwarf or Chaos team, and better, I think, on the Ogre because obviously your Bonehead is, more flexible than Unchanneled Fury or whatever on the Minotaur, and it just helps to keep the guy moving. Like sometimes you don't want to blitz with him, you just want to move him up the field. Um,
Yeah, it's almost like
and
it's the safe version of the reroll, right? You're not wanting to spend a full reroll on moving him, but if you've got a free chance to give it a go, yeah, you'll do it, right?
yeah, absolutely. So um, our first game was against a team called CL. I think I don't. Well, that's what they were called. I think they were Italian. I played a guy called Princey and his Nurgle.
Wow.
So yeah, well, start.
Nurgle versus Chaos is not what I was thinking I'd be hearing about in this meta.
Yeah, well, again, Nurgle is similar tier to Chaos, so getting extra gold, getting extra skills. I mean, he had taken the pack that allowed him to stack skills, so he was toting around like a block guard, warrior, and stuff like that. Um, I think he got a 2-headed. Oh no, that's a cool team. Like, no, yeah, but that sort of thing. It was an interesting one because obviously it's always the advantage of chaos in that matchup is being a tiny bit quicker and having a tiny bit better edge. But you're not really that quick, and the edge isn't that great. Whereas the advantage that the Nurgle have is obviously that foul appearance.
Yeah, and
It's going
in a
to
bash v bash matchup
yeah,
where you're trying to leverage an advantage, 1 in 6 of those not working does start to add up, doesn't it?
Yeah. He received um, got the ball. I immediately KO'd a warrior, but I just immediately burned the Apo
Lovely.
to keep the warrior on the field. Um, sort of came forward, and then there is, he's, I suppose, yeah, he's kind of, he's got the ball screened at the start of his turn too. I've just probably been able to put a bit of pressure on that screen, and he throws a block with his block guard warrior, and he quad skulls it into a seriously injury,
Oh my god.
having failed the
Oh no.
ring.
So not only has he lost what is a very valuable player in a warrior, he's lost 2 skill points and his whole pack basically, isn't it? That was his advantage by having that pack, was to be able to do the stack.
Yeah, and the ball is wide open. And so we've now sacked the ball and have been able to move, I don't know, 4 or 5 pieces to screen. So I've now, I've got the ball on the wrong side of his line of scrimmage with 4 or 5 players kind of in between. And the rest of that half is, really him just trying to battle to get back at it, and me just I think, to be honest, doing a reasonably good job of just moving round his half of the field to sort of stall it out, and yeah, really just kind of running it in for 1-0
Nice.
without too many dramas. Although I do think I lose. Yeah, I think I lose the ogre at some point carelessly. I think the ogre gets killed. Um, but yeah, nothing too sort of. And you just kind of, I just felt bad for the guy because it's like turn 2 of the first game of the tournament. Yeah, and for that to happen is just. But I did say to him, at least he's got that out of the way. Like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. These things, and also at the end of the day as well, if you're bringing, absolute respect to you and him, if you're bringing teams that are, like Chaos, like Nurgle, you're going to have bad moments. You're probably going to have bad games. So it's a bit like taking halflings in the old rules, without a star or something. You can't really do much, can you? You're playing it for a different reason almost.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then I suppose my drive, I probably showed a little bit, like you were saying about the tournament you played in. Okay, you were playing Nippy. Yeah, I playing someone that probably hasn't won a Euro Bowl. Yeah, but still probably a little bit rusty when driving. I quite quickly allowed him a scenario where he was able to go and get two players on my ball carrier, and me not really have a good way to clear them both. I mean, he's done the right thing. He's pushed all in, really. Yeah. But Chaos do have that ability to make a 3+ dodge, and so I do. And we managed to run away, and again we're sort of screening off and just kind of slowly stalling it out, really. Yeah. And I didn't hang around too much. I think I scored on about turn 4 or 5, and then he's obviously trying to drive back, and it just kind of petered out, really. Ball on the floor. I think around midfield, not really going anywhere. But it was an interesting one, just because I think one major bit of randomness from the cubes probably tipped the game quite strongly. But overall, first game since that was the first game of Blood Bowl I'd played since UKTC. So quite happy
Yeah,
to get a win
yeah.
with
Good
Chaos.
start. Good start. Yeah. No, very very good.
Um, in
Team
other
win.
news, in other news, Golden Gate High Elves had beaten Underworld 2-1. Dragonborn Humans had beat Renegades 2-0. And Speeding Bullets, Sick and Evil Underworld had actually lost 2-0 to Lizards. Um,
Lizards overpowered. I always said it. I always said lizards were overpowered.
To be fair, I think he was having a bit of a bad run across a couple of different competitions at that point, Spooning Bullet. So yeah, but so we won that one 3-0-1. And then we rolled into a French team called Black Bloc. Black Bloc, yeah. And I rolled into a reasonably well-known French player called Harty.
Oh, oh, the name does ring a bell.
Yeah, I mean, if you look quite highly up the first page of the NAF rankings, he's mentioned in there a couple of times, I think. So yeah, very very good, very good player. He was using Varag Underworld.
Absolutely disgusting. Anyone who plays Underworld needs to look at themselves in the mirror. Give themselves a
Yeah,
good hard look in the mirror.
yeah. And I think this is the moment where I mean, I probably would not have been able to beat this guy anyway. And B, I haven't played in a long time. And you know, like you against Nippy, there is that realization during this game that oh gosh, and I did say to him at some point, look, almost apologetically, like you're outclassing me so much here. this is not this is not funny. Um, I had a moment in this game where, on one turn, I removed both Varag and his troll in one turn.
Oh, lovely.
Um, he was quite, I wouldn't say aggressive. He just a bit like when he played Gegster. You know, they're really good at sort of getting your stuff on the floor and then making it so it's difficult to find any kind of two dice blocks or
Yeah,
sensible
there's no
without.
route out. There's no route out. Once they've knocked you down, they'll pin you in and then go, right, if you want to roll 3 1Ds to get a 2D somewhere, do it. But that's all you've
Yeah.
got.
And it wasn't quite that bad because obviously, there isn't that much strength in the Underworld team, and I've got the Warriors, and the Beasts have got horns and stuff. But I was just committing more and more players to the line of scrimmage, and eventually I had this turn around the middle of the half where I just, because I was receiving, where I just killed Varag and the troll and was like, well, great. And this was all very well and good, but I'd left. He had a 1 dice on the ball. Yeah, because there's too much separation then between my line of scrimmage and my actual ball carrier. Arguably because I'd moved my ball carrier too soon in the turn ordering. So I'm not taking into account the fact that I might get pushes and need to follow up and all of this kind of stuff. And um, to be honest, at that point it was all he had because the dice had really favoured me, and he had his 1 dice and he found the power, and then his gutter runner just did a gutter runner thing and ran off with the ball. And he was able to start it out, stall it out really nicely and went in 1-0 on my drive. Varag, I think, stayed out. The troll may have come back at some point, but really neither player made any kind of reappearance. Or if Varag did, I knocked him out again quite soon. Obviously, then look, you know, we're roughly 11 aside, and he's Underworld, and he just needs to score, and it's over, really. And I think I put him under. Well, I felt like I maybe put him under a bit of pressure, but probably not really. You know.
Yeah, when you're playing versus a gutter runner and you don't have a gutter runner, and as you said, Chaos are not that fast. Sure, in the Nurgle matchup or the Dwarf matchup, they might be the faster team, but in reality, they're really not. So
Yeah, and he's got Snotlings dodging on 2+s all over, and getting the gutter runner in range and then over the end zone was not the most difficult thing in the world. And I then had a drive back, and I suppose I could have gone for I'll try and score in 2 and do something. But actually, I just wanted to try and put together a good drive. I think it's about, like you're saying, it's about just, what are you there for? To enjoy it. And you know what? I put together a good drive, and he lost a few more people. And, I took my 6 or 7 turns or whatever I had, and I moved myself up the field. And to the best of my memory, I don't think I really gave him a shot. And, I crossed the end zone. to lose the game 2-1, but having felt like I'd assembled, put together a really good sort of bash drive against the Underworld. So, came away from that going, well, okay, I played a guy that's, got crazy high rankings, loads more experience than me, probably with a better race at that point in the rule set. I don't know now, but definitely at that point when you can take Varag and stuff. Got outclassed, but I feel like I've taken something away from the game. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's very important, and I think that's something we stress here, but maybe we don't stress it enough. It's about looking at those moments, going, even if you'd had 3 or 4 turns where you've gone, yeah, I've played those 3 or 4 turns really well. Even if you lose the game 3-0, if you can say to yourself, yeah, I did that, and then okay, he rolled 6-6, and then the ball scattered into the perfect square, and then he's run off with it. These things happen, right? But if you were happy the way you played a drive, for example, then that's brilliant. That's what it's all about. That's how you get better at the game. Is those small incremental improvements.
And in all fairness, it made no difference to the grand scheme of things because Golden Gate's High Elves lost 1-0 to humans. Speeding Bullets, Sick and Evil, Varag Underworld lost 1-0 to Amazons.
How sick and evil is this build? Because so far it's 0-0-2. I'm not feeling so. I might have to retract my statement about Underworld.
And then Dragonborn, in fairness to him, got a 1-1 draw against Necro. So we lost that round 0-1-3. Proper thumping
A
by
bit
the
of a
French.
thumping, yeah, a bit of a thumping there.
Yeah. Game 3, we played a team called BBBC. Don't recall. They may be French again. Don't know. Possibly. And, having played Nurgle in round 1, we came around this time, we played Khorne.
Wow. Okay, that's also an interesting matchup. That is, I'd say that one favours the Khorne a bit more though.
Yeah, probably. The Claw Mighty Bloke, I suppose, could do a thing, and the Frenzy. Although, what was he called? What does he call himself now? Dionysian. He goes by Spence, doesn't he now?
Yeah, Spence. Yeah.
I can't remember if it was him or Andy Davo. Always used to say that Frenzy was a bit of a multiplier. Like, if you're much better than your opponent, it widens the gap. But if you're much worse, it also widens the gap. So I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I was certainly looking at it going, here we go. His team was interesting though because he'd only got one guard, which was on one of his 2 beastmen, whatever they're called, and the other beastman
Corn
that he had.
Corn Gores, they're called.
Well, that's it. The other corn gore that he had 2 heads,
Oh, okay.
and so I thought, well, you know, there's a chance here because I've got a bit more guard and stuff, and I might be able to, you know, create him some issues, that way.
Yep, absolutely. The frenzy traps. Yep.
Yeah, he's probably got a bit more block than me. He got Juggernaut on the
The blood seeker, blood spawn, I think.
The blood seekers are the warriors, aren't they?
Yeah, blood spawn. Yeah, because it's a rot spawn and a blood spawn. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I think it's just one of those where I perhaps got ahead in the blocking war, able to put some pressure onto Holeb. I think his name was. And yeah, without too many dramas, I think able to just kind of, I think, push ahead on my turn, on my drive. I think he possibly just got a bit overcommitted to part of my offense and sort of left the other part of the field slightly unattended, which has kind of allowed me to push through and get a score that way. And then on his drive by memory, I think I guess he maybe wanted to win the game, so he perhaps went for something maybe involving a pass or something that hit the deck, and yeah, I was able to just sweep the ball up and just play it away really. Couple of Kazs on each side. I mean, I think I took quite an early Apo usage again to save a KO. But yeah, it was interesting because it just felt in the matchup and against the Nurgle that the Chaos held up fine against their cousin, their cousin lists,
Yeah.
which I would have assumed were perhaps more um, powerful. I think the other thing that came out in this one was just the ability of more of the stuff on my team to take a 3+ dodge like the Warriors can do it and stuff.
Yeah.
Just gives you some options sometimes. But yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't a game that um, where the roster, it felt like the roster was quite powerful in the matchup.
Okay.
Now that might be the skill that I had. Um, it might be the fact my opponent had gone for a slightly different list without kind of having all four of the Corngors.
Yeah,
I don't know.
as far as I'm aware, corn, you have to make a choice at some point, basically. So it might be that if you choose to get the extra gold or something in the Euro Bowl rule set, if you could choose to get the extra gold, you might be able to fit everything in. These one of these things. So I'm sure,
Yeah,
Andy Davo is the guy to talk to. He's still pretty high up in the world with his corn.
yeah. I know that he was kind of punting around the idea of at least having two guard in there.
Yeah,
One felt a bit light. I think it meant that I could push mine three in and then really give him some problems in terms of And if I'm not talking about it, a lot of the game is just when you play like that, one guy's got frenzy, and the other guy's got a bash team. It is just like, well, okay, well, how did I find that 2 dice block? How did I find that two
yeah,
dice block?
exactly. Yeah. It's
How did
there's
I
a
find
push. There's a both down. Yeah, I'll take the both down. Right, well, here we go again. There's a pow.
yeah.
That's two
And
into one. Yeah.
if there's one part of the game that I've often thought that I'm, not. I'm not saying that I'm, K-fogged or anything, but that I'm sort of slightly better than average at. It's that kind of blocking battle. I seem to
Yeah.
do quite well. I think I throw more blocks than my opponent without being. You can look at that and say sound really bad without overcommitting like an idiot, like or
Yeah,
whatever. I
yeah,
tend to
yeah.
throw more blocks than my opponent. I tend to find more blocks and create difficult situations. But anyway, ran out 2-0 winner. Golden Gate's High Elves drew with the Orc, his Orc opponents, 1-1.
Very nice.
So that's 1-1-0. Um, Dragonborn went down 3-0 to St Melvin Union.
Oh dear.
That wasn't a fun day at the office. So that's 1-1-1. Speeding Bullet against some Skaven was very relieved to win a game with his
Oh,
sick and twisted Varag Underworld.
finally.
And so we go 2-1-1. And
Amazing.
so we entered the end of day one, well, end of week three,
Yeah, yeah.
2-0-1, which is kind of about standard for us, to be honest. Like
Brilliant.
UK PCs, all of these kind of things that we play online, it's generally a sort of 2-0-1 situation.
Yeah, you want to find yourself to be still up at the competitive end of the tables going into the second day, as it were, in the last three games. You want to be playing up at the top, and if you find yourself filtering down a bit further, so be it. But you'd rather be up at the
yeah.
top for game four.
Well, I think we've generally found that we're now reaching a level where when we play against good ranked foreign teams, we can be competitive. But when we play against the really top ranked foreign teams, such as this team that included Harty and one or two other very well known French players, we do tend to find that we're probably a little bit coming up a little bit short. So that's why you tend to end up with some 201s
Yeah,
because inevitably you're running into somebody really good. So yeah, But yeah, and for me, I was finding the time to play,
Good,
and
good,
that was great. Yeah.
good. Very positive.
So you were going to talk about your second tournament now, which I'm assuming was more than just one bus. Was it two buses or a
No, it
train?
was in the car, but it was the Saturday immediately after Screaming Spires. That's how much I enjoyed it. I went from
Ah,
one tournament and then the next weekend did another tournament. So
amazing.
it's Pitch Invasion, November 2023, which is in High Wycombe, which is, if I pick Joe up en route, it's 45 minutes from Joe's house. So, falling down Joe's in the car with me, and we drive to High Wycombe. Joe has taken Shambling Undead, and I've taken Underworld. And because of the... because of
Do you have
the...
Varrock?
no, 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 no.
Then you have to whisper it. If you haven't taken Varrock, it's fine. It's fine.
Oh, that's fine. I took Creek. So
Not better, really. But...
so Joe had Shambling Undead with Ivan. No, is it no Ivar, the one that hates dwarves, the guy that hates dwarves, the strength 4 guy that hates dwarves. So because basically this,
block, juggernaut, strip ball,
yep,
all that
yep,
stuff.
tackle, yep, that's the one. And I'd gone for Underworld, pretty standard kind of Underworld build, but with Creek on top of it. So I got a Rat Ogre and Creek. So yeah, pretty filthy. I did look at myself in the mirror. So when we get there, turns out that the top 3 team picks are Underworld and Undead. So I
Yeah.
sit down, game 1, and it's an Underworld off. And I'm playing against a chap called Dodge22, who has brought Varag Underworld.
Ah.
Boo. Boo. So we sit down and we start chatting away, and it's all good and fun and stuff. And even though our 2 teams look very different on the pitch, about 3 turns in, I'm just sat there going, there are like 50 players on the pitch or something. You know, there's so many pieces here. Everything looks the same. Like, you know, we've got, you know, sure, we've got different goblins, but they're still goblins, and different snotlings, but they're still snotlings. Different rats, they're still rats. And I'm just looking at the pitch, and I just sat there going, I've got no idea what I'm doing. Like, Underworld versus Underworld is it's a horrible matchup just to look at. Basically, we go through the game. And we're kind of trundling along. I'm losing the odd snotling. He's losing the odd snotling. You know, these things happen. The big difference was I had an Apo. He didn't have an Apo. So when he lost a rat, he actually lost a rat. You know. So when I realised he didn't have an Apo, I pretty much changed what I was targeting. And I was definitely after those higher value pieces if I could. I mean, one should always try for that anyway. But with no Apo, you know, if you can take out those line rats. It's a big difference when you're setting up extra goblins or snotlings rather than line rats, right? So so Dodge kind of pushed through and did score early on his drive. I think he gave me 4 turns back, which obviously for Underworld is pretty. It was pretty straightforward. It wasn't super clean cut, obviously, because the snotlings can get in the way and this, that, and the other. But yeah, it was a pretty straightforward 1-1 at the end of his drive. And then I kind of just ground it out and started kind of establishing myself and going down the field, moving side to side, and pretty early on, a bit like we had in the last game of Screaming Spires with the Orcs, he had to start going for the cage dives. It wasn't working. It wasn't working, and eventually he had a more than, it was a bit more viable than it should have been, but I kind of had no option at that point. So there was a chance to hit the ball, and unfortunately the last reroll went and then rolled a skull. So there was, even though it was a 1D versus a blodger, you know, and I had a chunk of team ready to pick up if it had worked as well. So
Out of interest,
yep.
Hellboy, what piece were you carrying on?
Gutter runner.
You were. I just wondered because obviously he's got the cage diving options with the goblins.
Yeah, yeah.
So I wondered if you considered carrying on like a line rat or anything.
Yeah, sure. I had thought about it, but the main thing I thought was so thrower had to take leader to get creek and
Oh,
3 rerolls.
thrower with that. Sorry, I forgot you get thrower, don't you?
So the thrower had leader. If the
Yeah.
thrower had block, I would have been carrying on the thrower, I think. But because he didn't have block, I was thinking, okay, even if it's a 1D, at least
Yeah.
if he rolls the both down, he's falling over rather than me as well, you know?
Got you.
So yeah, so there was that. So yeah, I was able to lock it in for the knock in for the 2-1. And then obviously Underworld have he had to take a troll, or he chose to take a troll with Varag build. So he's got the double 1-turn option with obviously the standard gutter runner pushes, and then the throw teammate. I had just enough players. I think I had 8 players, so that's just enough to get a single dodge through the back line the whole way down, I think it is. And so I looked at this and went, I'm just going to have to stop the gutter runner 1-turn as best as I can. And I just, I don't quite backline it, but I definitely didn't defend the throw teammate. I thought, right, we'll go for the defending the gutter runner one, right? Because that's obviously got the higher odds than the throw teammate with the troll.
Yeah.
And then at this point here, I thought, Dodge played the game well. We had a good chat. He plays Underworld in his league. The one thing that I would say, as a point of learning for anyone who is playing Underworld or playing Humans, where you've got an ogre as well with the halfling throw teammate option as well, is set up for both 1-turns. If you don't know how to do a pushing 1-turn, a typical 1-turn rather than a throw teammate, learn how to do that, because that makes those teams so much stronger. If you've got the backup of the throw teammate, but your original game plan is the ordinary push kind of play. So Dodge actually only set up for the throw teammate, and in the end the goblin went backwards 3 squares. He did get in the air, but he scattered backwards 3 squares. So, and then failed the landing. So that was that. But yeah, so I was a little bit surprised. So 2-1 could have been 2-all, because Underworld have a gutter runner, don't they? So yeah, so a nice start to the tournament, and yeah, my head was hurting again, but more because I was like, I don't know how to play with 13 or 14 players on the pitch for either side. So there we go. So that was a good start. Joe, meanwhile, also won his first game, which meant that round 2 we met each other.
Oh, how often does that happen, eh?
So there's an interesting stat which I'll say before, as a premise before we start this report. So Joe and I used to play each other a lot. We used to go to the pub and play a game, and 9 times out of 10, I will beat Joe in a friendly match. Okay? Doesn't matter what race we're playing, doesn't matter what rule set we were playing. If we're sat in the pub having a beer, you're safer to bet that I will beat Joe than the other way round. Okay?
Yeah.
If we draw each other in a tournament, Joe will batter me, and I hadn't beaten Joe in a tournament. Okay? I'd never beaten Joe when it actually mattered. Twice. We played twice. We played at the Welsh Open, and we played at a smaller tournament, and Joe had beaten me 4-2 and 5-1, I think.
Wow.
With Skaven both times. So I sat down, and we were having a laugh, and we were chatting away and stuff like this, and the game where Joe beat me 5-1, he rolled 4 blitzes against me. And this is important because of what happens in the game now. Okay?
Oh, no.
So I kick to Joe, and I roll a blitz. And,
oh, wow.
And we just look at each other, and I go, here we go then. Let's have some fun. And my gutter runner ends up under the ball.
Oh, wow.
And catches the ball. So turn 1, Joe's half. Turn 1 for Joe. I've got a gutter runner holding the ball.
A blodge gutter runner holding
Oh, a blodge gutter runner holding the ball.
Wow.
Yes. Then some snotlings do some amazing heroics, because I should have said, so not only does Joe have the star player, this Ivan star player, or Ivar, whatever his name is, he also has 2 block mummies in this rule set. Okay?
Sure.
Okay. Joe can't free either of those block mummies because my snotlings keep dancing around. So Joe is becoming increasingly frustrated, and
Oh,
and then he tries to block a zombie with a zombie to free his star player, who's obviously strength 4, strip ball, tackle, versus my poor defenseless gutter runner, pretty much. Yeah, and the
yeah.
snotling just sidesteps onto him, and he goes, right, well, you can't get out of there now, can you? So Joe tries to sack the ball with the ghoul, doesn't rolls the 1 in 9, jams everyone in, and then goes, right, I'm just going to dodge the star player off and get him downfield because I might be able to sack next turn. Like, there's a chance,
Oh,
or either you have to score or I'll sack you next turn. So he dodges, fails the dodge. He then proceeds to break armor on himself, and fail the regen.
oh.
So star player gone. So now it's Underworld with Creek versus 2 ghoul undead. Because the cost of getting the star player meant you could really. There was a build with three ghouls but 2 rerolls, but Joe went 2 ghouls, 3 rerolls. And because the star player is dead now, that's a huge chunk of change gone from the pitch.
Wow. Well, that's a start, mate.
It is. I very rudely decide to stall for a turn and dodge another hit on the ball before sinking it in for 1-0 on my turn 2.
I mean, as much as you enjoyed the first tournament, at this point you must be sitting there going, I really enjoy Blood Bowl.
I'm loving Blood Bowl at this moment. You know when I love Blood Bowl even more?
When you roll a blitz again.
When I roll a blitz again. And I put a gutter runner under the ball. And at this point, Joe is looking at me, and Joe is he's frustrated, but also he freely admits that he doesn't have a leg to stand on because he rolled 4 blitzes against me in the last time we'd played each other at a tournament. So then things take an interesting turn. The game doesn't actually go very well for me.
What?
Yeah, so Joe manages to kind of clear the ball. I sack the ball again with some Creek shenanigans. And then Joe manages to get the ball and run off. And I then have a beautiful chain push play using Creek to chain someone through the screen onto the ball, or onto his screen to then clear the screen to then be able to blitz the ball. And Creek goes and double skulls.
Oh.
Yeah. Reroll fails. Creek's gone. Bye bye. And suddenly Joe is looking absolutely fine for the 1-1 at the end of the half, which promptly happens. We set up. I can't get the 1 turn, so we move into the second half. Second half, it's a lot less exciting than the first half. A lot less exciting. And essentially, we get to the point where I've got myself in a position to score. Joe's been doing things like 6+ dodges with the mummies, using some very sensible logic. Because if I say to you, he did a 6+ dodge with a mummy, that sounds crazy until you realise that if you do the 6+ dodge with the mummy, if you're prepared to put the reroll in on the dodge, you're going to get a 2D on the ball, rather than going with the ghoul, where you get the same 6+ dodge, but you get the inbuilt reroll. But at that point, you're only getting a 1D because of where everything's positioned.
Yeah.
So you're guaranteeing the 2D if you're going with the mummy. So it sounds crazy, but Joe had thought it all through very, very sensibly. We had a couple of mummy dives at the cage and stuff, but it was pretty much locked in. 2-1 to me there. Joe sets up. He doesn't actually have enough players to do the 1 turn, so he tries to set up for the timeout, but it's not an extra turn. So I managed to break the duck and get a win versus Joe, 2-1, which puts me on 2-0-0 at the halfway point.
Wow. Going well then.
Yeah, and I'm loving Blood Bowl. I hate Underworld, but I love Blood Bowl.
And Creek, how's Creek going? I mean, I get the
Creek's
dog
fine,
stuff,
right? So it was really interesting. Dodge chose to ignore him completely, pretty much through the
right?
game. Joe tried to uphill him and tried to and was looking to engineer 1Ds with the mummies and stuff, but I didn't really give him the opportunity to. He was more
Yeah.
panicking about, he couldn't really focus on Creek, could he? Because he didn't have the ball in his hands until, I think he didn't pick the ball up until turn 5 of his drive.
Right. Okay.
And he was 1-0 down.
Yeah.
So, so there were other things on his mind. Then what happens in the next 2 games is very different. So my next game is against Eldritch Fox, who came up to me and said he'd started listening to our podcast. So, hello, Eldritch Fox.
Yes. Eldritch Fox. Is that the person you told me about? Part of the reason we were keen to continue because we found we were getting new listeners all of a sudden.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, there were a couple of guys. Greenskin Phil as well. Shout out to Greenskin Phil. Came up to me as well. Both of these guys came up and said, "Hey, I just recently discovered your podcast. When's the next episode?" So we have these guys to thank for our return. So Eldritch Fox had brought Undead as well. Almost exactly the same build as Joe, but had gone for an extra ghoul and 2 rerolls. So that was the option there. Eldritch was also, having been to the World Cup with Undead, was knocking on the door of 200 ranking.
Oh wow!
So that will give you the idea of the level of play we've got going on here. Now, think back slightly to that the previous tournament when I sat down versus Nippy. Right, Nippy had played Wood Elves at the World Cup, and then was bringing them to a tournament like this. It felt very similar. Okay. I got myself into a bit of a sticky situation. He kicked to me, and I got myself into a bit of a sticky situation, and I had a choice to make with Creek, where I could go for some 2 dice hit options, or I could just move away and not do anything, or I could stay where I was. And I went for the 2 dice hit option, and I rolled a skull and a skull.
Oh no!
And then I didn't have the ball anymore.
Oh no!
So I think, in all honesty, I think, looking back in hindsight, should I have taken that hit with Creek? No. Should I have been more aggressive with Creek at other times? Yes, probably. Should I have taken that hit with Creek? No. Will I be taking that hit with Creek if I ever play with Creek again? No. Why did I do it? Because I was having too much fun. I allowed fun to dictate my gameplay, Fear.
Dr. Hellboy, I'm gonna take us all the way back to the start of this, where the whole point was the fun. So
I know, but it's more fun when I'm winning.
I've heard you say that before as well.
Yeah, there we go.
I've heard a story from school children.
Yes, yeah.
It's more fun when winning.
Yeah. I thought it was the taking part. It was. Yeah, I was there teaching a class of schoolboys, and I said, "Come on, boys, you got to take it more seriously. You've got to try and win." And one of them pipes up and goes, "But Mr. Dr. Hellboy, sir," that's obviously I'm not using my real name here. "Mr. Dr. Hellboy, sir, isn't it the taking part that counts?" And I said, "Yeah, but it's more fun when you're winning." And they all cheered. I did get slightly in trouble from the head of sport when they learnt that I'd said this. They were like, "You do know we're trying to really encourage a taking part kind of attitude, not a winning attitude." So I found myself 1-0 down, which was not ideal on my drive. But again, Eldritch played very well. I made a blunder. Eldritch played very, very well. I was able to squeak back and get a touchdown back on my drive, so we were there at 1-1.
I like the use of the word squeak.
Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah. Well, it was with the gutter runner.
Yeah.
But this was a match where I was starting to suffer attrition. So the Underworld game where I played versus Dodge, we kind of were doing the same amount of damage to each other by the end. Like, we were trading hit for hit. But the thing was, I think at one point we had 7 players each on the pitch, but it didn't matter. Ooh. But it didn't matter because we were both Underworld, right? So we both got a gutter runner, we both got a goblin. It wasn't that big of a problem. And versus Joe, I had the leverage. He wasn't removing players. I was 1-0 up. It was a different feel to the game, right? But here, being 1-0 down, then 1-1, but then Eldritch's drive, chipping away, just removed one here, removed one there. You know, my options are slimming down. I did pop the ball, burning a lot of rerolls to do it. I did pop the ball, but I couldn't recover the ball properly at that point. And yeah, the game slipped away. Eldritch knocked it in for the 2-1. I set up to try and do the one turn, and I worked it out from the way that he positioned. I had 4 players, and I still thought that I would have been able to do the one turn with 4 players. Okay? It turned out I needed one more player. Five players, and I could have done a one turn.
Yeah,
that is vile. That is absolutely vile. But it's okay because I lost. So Eldritch is now sitting pretty, knocking on the door of the 200. Probably just gone over 200, I think, in that game. I think versus me probably. So very excited. I'm 2-0-1. I wasn't in a bad mood at all, and had a great game versus a lovely chap. And he will be pleased to hear. Eldritch will be very pleased to hear, because Eldritch sold me a Skaven team a couple of years ago. Okay, and I never got round to painting it. And as we record right now, I am looking at Skaven on my painting desk.
Ooh.
So there we go. I said I would try and get them done, and I've got them started.
They've got paint on them. You're not just looking at them.
No. They've got paint on them. They, we definitely got paint. We definitely got layers of paint on them. So yeah. Wow. So progress has started. So at this point, in the tournament standings, it's actually still possible for me to win the tournament.
Woo!
Because there are so many people so close. We've got people like Besters is there, Eldritch Fox is there, I'm there, and then one of the chaps that I'm playing, who's called Hector, is my final match. All of us are in line for potentially winning. If combinations of things happen, any one of us can still win the tournament. So it's good fun. We're having a laugh. Eldritch is playing Besters, and I'm playing Hector's Khorne. And so Eldritch, I mentioned regarding Creek. Eldritch went after Creek, right? He went after Creek. He eventually removed Creek with a mummy block. Okay, he was trying to find 2Ds on Creek. Okay.
Yeah.
Hector went one step further. Okay. So right, brace yourself, dear listeners and Fear, brace yourself. I opt to kick. Okay.
Right. Yep.
And I set up, and I've been lucky enough that I've played next to no Khorne, but I have played versus a lot of Khorne. So I'm quite familiar with the new Khorne. The game opens, loads of things fall over, frenzy hits happen, there's a bit of frenzy trapping, blah blah blah. And Hector he comes up with a plan that he's going to try and hit Creek immediately. Okay. Which is possible, but it's going to be a 1D. But he's going to do it anyway, right? It's going to be 1 into red uphill, right? But he's going to do it anyway. But during the process of all the other blocking, he actually tags his own big guy with one of my players. So there's a 4+ dodge. So Hector picks up the ball, and he pops the ball away, and he looks at it and he goes, "Oh, I'm just going to do it anyway." So he dodges his big guy and makes it. He goes forward to Creek and rolls a skull on the 1D and looks at it and goes, "Okay," and re-rolls it.
Well, you're there now, so you might as well.
Well, yeah, so he makes the loner roll and rolls a pow on Creek. And Creek's off the pitch. So I'm stood there, and I'm like, okay, this is that was a bit unexpected. Like I wasn't really expecting, but it's okay. He's only on 1 re-roll at this point, okay, because he's only got 2 re-rolls, and one of them he's just used to 1D Creek. the next one of his turns, I do a blitz or something and knock something over, and nothing happens, and I go back. And the next turn, he hits my he with all the frenzy that's going on and things being pushed around. He gets a hit on my leader thrower and takes my leader thrower out, and the Apo fails. And I'm looking at this going, oh god, like this isn't how the story's meant to go. I'm pushing to try and win the tournament. I also know I'm on for most touchdowns if I keep up this level. So I'm thinking, oh, this is awful. I've lost a reroll, lost a rat, lost Creek. But after 2 turns, everything's so congested in the middle of the pitch that I can see what I believe to be the nicest play of the weekend from my side, which is with a simple 2+2+ dodge from a Snotling, I can create effectively 3 pushes, like three lots of 3x3. Oh no, 3x3, 2x2. 3 lots of 2x2 squares that I can chain push the ball carrier out of the cage and get a 2 dice hit on him from outside the cage if my Rat Ogre behaves. Okay? So the Snotling does the double dodge into the right square, clear the Rat Ogre blitzes, push on the first one, pow on the second one, injure that player, ball's out, mighty blow hit on the ball carrier down, stunned I think at this point, ball pops out, I drop the foul, and all of a sudden the game swings completely. You have never seen a swing in as much of a direction. We have literally gone from being down, we've lost our star player, and we've lost our thrower, and the next moment I've got the ball in the hands of my gutter runner, and he's screened.
Really?
Yep. And then became a real underworld game. Every single turn, I was removing a player or 2. Every single turn for the rest of his drive. And we went through the whole stages. We went through the 5 stages. I went from apologising to him laughing to us both laughing to us looking at it going, okay, well you've got 4 players on the pitch right now. When he set up to defend, he had 7 players, I think, when he set up to defend, versus my 12, because obviously I'm Underworld.
Yeah.
And then when he went to score back, he had 4 players on the pitch. We won't go through the nitty-gritty of it. In the end, it ends 3-1 to me, and I've done the best that I can do in terms of potentially winning the tournament and getting most touchdowns. And it was just a silly game. It was one of those games where that is just what Underworld can do.
I mean, it sounds like you were having a good go getting most cats as well.
I was not.
No.
No, most Kaz had flown the coop already, pretty early on.
Oh.
Yeah,
Right.
no, Kaz wasn't on. To sum it all up, the awards ceremony was announced, and it was announced that most touchdowns would have gone to someone, but they don't award 2 prizes to the same person. Okay? So Dodge got most touchdowns. The guy who I played in round 1 had managed to pick up most touchdowns. He had the same number of touchdowns as me.
Ooh.
Oh, pretty interesting.
Ooh.
We get into the top 2. And in second place, it's Dr. Hellboy. And in first place, it's Eldritch Fox, picking up the win. 4-0-0. No, not 4-0. 3-1-0 for Eldritch Fox. And a 200 record with Undead. So I was very happy to come second to Eldritch, given the fact that he beat me and he'd pipped his Undead over 200 NAF ranking.
That's awesome. Well done, Eldritch Fox.
Yep. And hey, second, I had a great day. It was so much fun. It was. I was back enjoying Blood Bowl again. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, as much as people can say, well, Underworld of this or that, Underworld of that, I've always, in previous editions of the game, because of the variety of the pieces that you have, and because that you've got a tiny bit of strength and you've got a bit of edge and a bit of dodge, but it's not so fast. Like, you've got to think about it. It's not like Wood Elves used to be, where everything dodges on a 2+ and then moves 7. Your 2+ dodging is moving mostly 5 because it's snotlings.
Yep.
And I always found them to be enjoyable to play. And I don't suppose actually to play them now with all the different options they've got, and you know that's changed at all. I imagine they are still actually just quite an enjoyable team to play with. It's a bit of a glass cannon, isn't it? Like,
Yeah, and the other thing is I genuinely hadn't played them in these new rules. I
yeah,
barely played against them, and I just had fun. It was just
yeah,
fun. Like, and yeah, yes, yeah, yeah. I say yeah, of course, of course. I would be lying to myself if I didn't say I enjoy winning. Okay, because I do. But Blood Bowl's a competitive game. But I was actually finding myself at both this tournament and the one before enjoying the game for those thinking moments again, those puzzles, all of that. Not worrying about the results. You know,
yeah,
I wasn't worried. I
yeah,
wasn't thinking to myself, "Oh, I've got to get this result here." No, I was going, "I'm going to have some fun," and actually,
mm.
by doing that again, I was putting myself in the position to do well. So that was really good, and I'm back enjoying Blood Bowl, and I'm looking forward to next year's tournaments. So really good.
It's awesome, man. That's good. That's
Yep.
really good. That's really
So,
good.
right,
Yeah.
shall we finish off your next 3 matches then in your NAF, your
Oh
Fumble
yeah, yeah,
NAF?
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So we resume on week 4. We play Thistlehurt, who I suppose are probably Scottish, I imagine. I play somebody called Loki, or Loki on NAF.
Ah, Loki.
Yeah. And Loki is using lizards.
Very good with
And
lizards. Very good with
yeah,
lizards.
a fairly sort of, I think, standard lizard build by my memory. I think just like 6 block, I think. It's quite an interesting game, this one, because it was a really good game. And I think I speak for both of us. I mean, he said that as well. Quite a good back and forth. I think I received, and on my drive, you know, he sort of committed a little bit to the push that was towards my left hand side, which left me a chance to sort of break up the right hand side, which I did. His Crocs had an awful half with the boneheads just stood where it was for several turns. And effectively, I was outnumbering them. And then on the right hand side, as I was driving up the pitch, I managed to surf at least one thing, maybe 2 things. Um, Lizards are quick enough, though. They did manage to sort of get back and get in amongst it. But on the sort of crucial turn around turn 6 or 7, I've got an opportunity to, I'd have effectively broken through, and I'll have a beast man with the ball, and I'll have another beast man next to him, and probably the only thing is he's got one skink that can probably do anything about it. And really, an error of judgment. He parked a Saurus next to my ball carrier, so I need to get rid of that. And I trundle the ogre over, and it immediately rolls I think it was a double both down, and pro fails. So the ogre goes down, and then there's a Saurus next to my ball carrier, and the ball carrier goes down, and the drive ends in nothingness. Yeah. And really, it was stupid because I've moved the ogre over. I could have then blitzed with the beastman that was
Oh,
holding the
yeah, of
ball.
course, because you've got horns, haven't you? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those moments where it's about turn 2 of the second half where I went, oh no, that would have been
Oh,
a
you
better
idiot.
idea.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but it was a really good back and forward, and some nice tactical shuffles, and yeah, just a really interesting game. And then, so then he's driving, and again we have some backwards and forwards. A couple of people leave the field, but nothing to too much affect the game. and then he goes for his push forward, and I'm trying to box it in, I guess, with Beastman, and I'm trying to hit the front of his cage to just put a bit of pressure on there. I get a push with a Beastman on a skink, and really I just need one go for it to perhaps not lock it in, because skinks have still got 3+3+s, but I think he probably would have had to score um, as a worst case scenario, which would probably give me at least 3 turns to try and go back the other way. As it was, I snake eyed to go for it, and that left his skink sort of free to gallop around my end zone, accompanied by a couple of other skinks. My backfield, accompanied by a couple of other skinks until turn 8. And he sort of said to himself it was a really good back and forth. Both of us felt we were making impacts on our turns. And probably one bad decision from me means I'm not one up, so it's not a one or draw. And then obviously, snake eyes is snake eyes, right? 1 in 36 or whatever. So it came up at the wrong time. So I go down 1-0 to Loki's Lizards.
Okay. Well, no shame in that. I've had a couple of lovely games versus Loki, including versus Lizards and versus Undead. Yep, quality guy, nice coach. Yeah, good. Seems fair. Yeah, seems fair.
But my Golden Gate's High Elves have drawn 2-2 with Skaven, and Dragonborn's humans have won a human mirror 1-0. And Speeding Bullets Renaissance continues
with his cheating underworld.
Yeah, with a 2-1 victory over Norse.
Brilliant. So you take the round.
Yeah, 2-1-1. It's good.
Very, very nice.
So then we roll into a team going by the name of Miss Sweden's Deckhands.
Okay, well, I know who Miss Sweden is, and I presume that the rest of that team is of a similar calibre.
Well, Miss Sweden wasn't on the team by memory.
Oh, okay.
More of a reference to Miss Sweden. And so, captained, I think, by Triple Skull. And if I've got my memory right, I think the other 3 members of that team were all, I think, part of the team of Team Denmark that won the last Euro Bowl, I think.
Yep, definitely. Very good. Okay, so certainly a calibre of opponent that you're given our conversation at the end of that day one. These are the people you want to be playing against to see what you need to do to step up to that level, isn't it?
Well, this is the one we usually lose. So, and usually lose handily, I think. We buckled in and off we go. So with Chaos, there are a lot of matchups you don't really want, to be fair. But one of the ones that you traditionally never really, really, really didn't want was Amazons. Because obviously old school Amazons had all that dodge to be able to just screen you off, and had a lot of guard to be able to fight you. Yeah. And the person that you really, really don't want to play, if they're using Amazons, is probably the guy that was the MVP in the last Euro Bowl.
Not the guy that beat your co-host on this podcast in round 1 of Euro Bowl, Tank.
And then used his dice.
And then used his dice against him. Yeah, used his dice for tournament, and then managed to win the individual title at Euro Bowl. It wasn't Tank, was it?
Well, I mean, on football he's known as Socrates, but yes, Tank. Yes.
Oh no. Okay. So a 3-0 loss to you. On to round 6, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Tank and I played once before at UKTC, where my Chaos lost 2-1 to his Nurgle. That was a World Cup year. If you remember, there were weird rules around that World Cup. Chaos were good on day 1 or something. We've got history. Interesting game. Tank is quite an aggressive player. We'll try and make things happen. I received, failed to pick the ball up. He very quickly blitzed through the screen and went and parked one of the strength 4 pieces next to my sure hands Beastman. Just trying to put pressure on, really. and he'd also got a bribe and a dirty player. So he was trying to find fouls on the on the Warriors, I think in particular, or the Ogre.
Yeah, going after the high value with the bribe dirty player is very sensible.
And what happened quite quickly is, I mean, I was able to obviously knock the strength four piece away, pick the ball up, cage up. But what happened quite quickly is that he sort of committed players to trying to foul things. And obviously that's the strategy, so, fine. But I found that I quite quickly, like turn four maybe or five, it flipped him effectively. So I'd got, so, I mean, I'd abandoned my players that were getting fouled, and had got sent, six or seven players, sort of between him and the ball's in his half the field. Um, and he fought his way back to try and stop me, but obviously it's sort of fatal by that point. And so I go in 1-0 at the half.
Okay,
To
that's
the
good.
best
Yeah.
to the best of my memory, the foulings maybe KO'd something or not really removed anything. And I know at some point in the game it does remove something, but at the same time he fails the bribe and gets the dirty player sent off. So there's never really a point at
Oh,
which it's paid massive dividends. Um, he does manage to force me to actually, in all fairness, he does manage to force me to score a turn early. I think I score on 7, so I think he's got 2 turns back. Um, and he pushes a couple of people through the line. I park some people next to them. There's a block. There's a couple of 3+ dodges. There's a block. And that's to get into a position where he can do a 3+ pickup, 3+ pass. There's probably a 3+ dodge, 3+ handoff, 4+ handoff, 3+ dodge, and maybe a go for it to go in 1-1 at the half. He just fails the
okay.
first pickup. You don't have to go
Oh,
for the. He
oh,
just
okay.
fails the first pickup. So 0-0. And out of re-rolls, obviously, by then. The second half then is interesting. I think possibly affected a little bit by game state in the sense that obviously with these weekly tournaments, not everyone's playing at the same time. So I think he's got a sense by that point that he would quite like to win the game. And so he pushes the score early, pushes quite strongly down, I suppose, my left hand side, and I find some dice. I think I find a 4+ dodge with a Beastman and maybe a 3+ dodge to get 2 dice on the ball. Ball carrier is removed. Ball goes in the crowd.
Whoa.
Ball lands right by my end zone in a really slightly awkward spot that just because of where everything is, I can't quite properly screen it off as well as I'd like to, and I also can't quite get anyone to pick it up. I just don't have enough movement to get to pick the ball up. And he finds a block, and he finds a dodge, and he finds another dodge, and he finds a pickup with one of the blitzer things, and there's a blitz in there somewhere with it, and it's 1-1. And I now
Okay.
find myself with it's possibly turn 2 or turn 3, you know. So I now find myself with a sort of drive to go back the other way, and I think he's sort of um, yeah, I think he had a sort of 14-player roster. I think he's possibly down to about 10. I've probably got about 10. So we're 1-1. I drive back the other way. Again, you think he comes in quite aggressively, which commits everything, tries to base everything. It gives me an opportunity to pop out of one side without much opposition. And off I trundle down the field. But again, he's able to get enough pressure on that I have to run it in for 2-1 and give him 2 turns back still. So we're getting quite a high scoring second half considering chaos are involved here.
Yeah, Chaos v Amazons. You don't see it going to potentially 4 touchdowns, do you?
No, so And he is he's that. Sorry, you know what? Actually, at this point, I think he possibly is down a few players. He's maybe attacking with 8 or something. He's aided by the ball landing like literally on top of one of his catches for the kickoff. That catcher being basically stood on halfway. So that's obviously a big aid for him. And he breaks and he runs off down the field and he's got it screened off in front of his catcher so that my Wrestle Beast men can't really get anywhere near it. And he's tagged the sort of 2 players that I stood in the sideline, on my setup.
Yep.
But and this is that moment. This is one of those moments where I can, I can look in the mirror and I can say, it's one of those moments where, maybe Chaos do have an edge over Orcs. And that edge is that Chaos Warriors dodge on a 3+.
Okay.
Well, a 4+. Yeah? And my Chaos Warrior dodges on a 3+, throws 2 guys, finds a POW, down goes the catcher, we ram everything else in, and it's basically impossible, and we run out 2-1 winners.
Wow! Congratulations, big scalp, big scalp.
Yeah, and you know what? Lucky to find the POW on the blodger, obviously with 2 dice. I don't think I had a reroll to use, so it was whatever the odds of that are. And I obviously had to find the 3+, but I rolled a 3, which was big one couldn't do that, could it?
Nope, nope. That's why you took chaos. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I'm telling the guys in the WhatsApp chat. Anyway, at that point. So where are we at this point? Well, I mean, look, as I'd alluded to, I mean, I think he was keen to win because I think Speeding Bullet has drawn an underworld off at this point, I think, and Golden Gate has won against Khorne with his high elves. Me winning that game obviously means the last game's a dead rubber at 2-1-0. Triple Skulls, Elven Union beat Dragonborn's humans by 1 touchdown to 2. So we have beaten Mid Sweden's deckhands by 2-1-1.
Big scalp, and presumably that's now you on 4-0-1. You must be knocking on potentially looking at winning the whole thing as a team, right?
Yeah, I think going into round 5, the best we could have finished was 3rd. Yeah, just because there are a lot of teams. Like these tournaments are huge, aren't they, in terms of the participation numbers? And I think there were a couple of teams that were on like 4 wins and a draw, and of course they're playing each other or whatever.
Oh yeah, fair.
I think there were sort of 7 teams around the same number of points. So if all the results went our way, 3rd was I think the highest we could finish at this point.
Okay.
Golden Gate's got a degree in got a PhD in advanced mathematics, and that's what he told me. So I'll go with him on that. Yeah.
Yep. That's fair enough.
He modelled it. So we go into last round and we play against some more Italians, Gonzi. And I have Kiev and his Skaven.
Another unfavourable matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I've put Chaos, so what's going to happen, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much everything's an unfavourable matchup, right?
Yeah. I can't remember. I would have to go back and check, but I think he'd been mentioned in dispatches, and maybe even it did actually end up with most touchdowns in the tournament. So he's obviously doing quite well. And we're on. At this point, I'm with my 3 wins and 2 losses. I'm sat on, weirdly, given how well we're doing, 3 wins and 2 losses has sat me on table 1.
Wow.
I think. So,
okay.
I think it's table 1 for them, or maybe I'm table 2. Maybe I'm table 2. I'd have to go back and do it. But it's been an interesting one, and I'll touch on it slightly afterwards. But so off we go against off we go against Kiev, and I don't. Uh, I'm acutely. I think I stunned three guys on the line of scrimmage, right? And so then I'm able to sort of box them in as I drive forward, and really I'm doing the kind of old-fashioned bash turtle, using the fact that I've got strength five, a load of strength forward, some guard to just push forward. Don't really care if I end up basing something because you're not getting a two dice block anywhere, but you're not
Yeah.
getting a one dice block anywhere. Um, it's slightly awkward because these kind of guys are stunning, and I need to be in the middle of the field. And I sort of take a decision because it's not that important. That if I end up if I end up being based by one of these guys lying on the floor, the best they can get is a two dice uphill. And he tries it once and gets a push, and that's fine because that gives me more blocks, and really I'm trying to maximise blocks as well. And we cruise up the field, and it's all going very nicely, and stuff's getting stunned, and so it's then it's out of position. And then another one of these stun pieces causes a problem about halfway up the drive. So I leave the two dice uphill again, and of course this time he rolls double pow, which made me delightfully happy. But again, it's fine because he's, you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is what it is, right?
but it was fine because there was no. You know what? That's a lie. The gutter runner could maybe have recovered it, but by memory, one of the gutter runners then just failed a 3+ dodge and died, and that was the first removal. We're on about turn 5 here, and the first thing that, given all the stuns I've got, the first thing that actually gets removed is is this gutter runner that fails a dodge to try and go and get this ball, which I think it would have needed a 5 or a 6 or something to grab anyway, and then God knows how it was getting out. The other thing that's really interesting is he's got a mighty blow blitzer, which he's blitzing with every turn. And then what he's doing is he's literally just left his rat ogre stood absolutely still
Yep.
towards the middle of the field. And bearing in mind, the only thing I've been able to remove is this gutter run that's failed the dodge. The moment he activates his bloody rat ogre, forward it comes, smash, warrior KO'd. Yeah?
Yep.
So I'd use the Apo, obviously. Yeah. He's Apo'd the gutter runner as well, it doesn't stay dead. I get all the way up to his end zone. I'm parked in front of his end zone. I think he killed. Does he then go and kill the ogre? I think he then goes and kills the ogre.
Oh boy.
This rat ogre did nothing for. It literally stood still, did nothing for about 5 turns, and then just started killing stuff. Like it was crazy. And I've literally removed nothing at that point. He then obviously he's 1-0 down. Really interestingly, we'd actually arranged to play all 4 games of this match at the same time.
Okay. Amazing.
Speeding Bullet and his opponent sadly had to rearrange for the following day, but Golden Gate's playing and Dragonborn's playing, and obviously we're pretty active on the WhatsApp. How's it going? How's it going? And so sort of Golden Gate and Dragonborn are a bit ahead of us. So you're sort of aware that Golden Gate stopped his opponent scoring.
Yep.
And then he's going to be sort of receiving the ball. And I think I'm sort of aware. I mean, Dragon Ball's the furthest ahead of us. I think you're sort of aware that that's 1-0 to him, but looking like a 1-1 draw. So you've kind of got that in the back of your mind. All of a sudden, you're getting that sort of real team tournament feel about it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I like being able to schedule, like, obviously it's not going to be possible every time, but that's really nice that you guys have managed to get the final round to be like that.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah. And so off goes Kiev on his drive, and I think he wants to win the game. Moves the ball forward, and on literally on turn 2, just sticks it in with the goal runner. I think, or turn 3, or something like that.
Mhm.
No, that's a lie. He messes about a little bit first, and then he goes in. I think I've got 4 turns. I've got 4 or 5 turns to win the
Okay.
thing.
Okay.
Yeah. By this point, thanks to the rat ogre and God knows what else, I mean, he's got 11, I've got 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The next thing that happens, given that I've got four turns to win it, the next thing that happens is that the ball lands in my end zone.
Oh no.
So I'm saying to the guys on chat, look, I'm gonna try and hold this. Yeah. If I can keep this to 1-1, I'm just gonna try
Yeah.
and hold it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a player down against Skaven, and the ball's landed in my end zone. Yeah, this is bad. Um, Immediately then, I removed 2 players on the line of scrimmage.
Uh huh. Okay.
Yeah, I've played enough Bash. Like, if I'm being really honest with myself, really, really honest with myself, the attempts that I've made to play with elves and pure dash teams have never quite gone as well as I would have liked. And my attempts to play with kind of hybrid teams have always gone okay. Yeah,
Yep.
Amazons I've had a couple of tournaments with. Undead, I think I'm pretty reasonable with.
Lizards.
Um, Lizard, I've done all right with. But like probably the team I played the most actually because I think I played 15 half games with Chaos Dwarfs.
Yep.
It's just that 38 of them have been on NAF tournament, Fumble tournaments. But I'm actually unbeaten in tabletop tournaments with Chaos. I didn't realise that. I'm unbeaten with Chaos. But you know what to do with the Bash team in that situation to give yourself a chance, and it all really kicked in. It was really interesting, and so I do what I need to do, and I go and get the ball, and I start moving it forward in chunks, and he, there's no point messing about. I've just got to hit one side and just drive as hard as I can, and that means doing things like blitzing stuff up against the sideline and trying to pin it so that he doesn't want to stand it up because it's going to get surfed, and
Yeah.
all of this kind of stuff that I'm doing up the field. And then I've become aware that during this process I've become aware that Golden Gate has, in his own words, stuffed up his drive and has gone 1-0 down. On his,
Oh no.
uh,
Okay.
but then we've also got the news that Dragonborn's hit a one-turner with his humans to win the game 2-1.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
And then we get the news that Golden Gate has actually managed to score in 2 turns to draw his game 1-1. Yeah. So now we're 2-1-0, and actually a draw's all right for me probably. Sorry, no, we're 1-1-0, and a draw's probably all right for me. But we get to a point where I can sort of flip him, and I do. I flip him on the basis that I know he can get 1 dice on the ball, right?
Okay.
But with his thrower not on the field anymore, and looking at various other things, I can't see a way. And this sounds stupid because he's Skaven. If he gets the 1 die on the ball and the ball goes down, it should still be fine. Like, I shouldn't be able to lose the game from there. That was the theory. So as I mentioned, in driving forward, I've been pushing some stuff up against the sideline. So I've got a gutter runner shoved up against the sideline, pinned by, with a Chaos Warrior next to it because it didn't fall over.
Yep.
Right? And I put my ball carrier in such a way as to make it so that if that gutter runner wants to dodge, it's got to immediately go into 2 tackle zones
Yep.
because the ball carrier stood exerting. Right. So round he runs and he makes a bunch of gutter runner nonsense. 2+3+. I think there's a 4+ in. And he gets 1 dice on the ball. Right.
Okay.
And over it goes. Obviously, there's a pow in there or something. And so he lands it next to this gutter runner that stood up against the sideline, and the ball obviously bounces to this gutter runner that stood on the sideline, who catches it.
Oh no.
And, he's done the right thing the turn before in that he has left a scoring threat in. And so this gutter runner is now a 4+. No. I think it's basically like 4+, 3+, 2+, dodges, double go for it for a handoff, and then he's going to win the game.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yep.
And to the moment that he catches the ball, I'm just like, oh no. how can that have gone any more wrong? Because just I thought I'd got it all figured out, and best laid plans of mice and men, and all of that kind of stuff. Um, as it is, he fails the 4+ dodge.
Ooh.
3+ dodge, and the ball then scatters into the hands of a beastman.
Oh.
Oh, the beastman's out of range, can't score. Uh, no, without 4+ dodge, I think, and I try a couple of blocks to move what would be in the way. The other the Chaos Warrior that was marking that gutter runner, there's just too much in front of it. But 5 squares or 6 squares from the end zone is the piece that was the side of my screen. And that piece, it's not a big one.
It's a Chaos Warrior.
It's a Chaos Warrior. And so all I have to do is hand the ball off to the Chaos Warrior on a glorious 3+, and we win the game 2-1.
Does
And
he make it?
once again, I am in the chat telling everyone how much Chaos are better than Orcs.
Amazing. Amazing.
And so, we're 2-1-0 up at that point. Speeding Bullet beats some humans 2-0 the following day, and so we finished the round on 3-1-0.
Amazing.
We finished in 5th place.
Okay.
Team TheFear taking the top spot.
Indeed, they did. Yep.
Black Block, I think, who we played in round 2 and lost to, taking 2nd spot.
Oh, well done.
Crucially for our ego, all the President's Men finished in 6th.
Oh.
So that feels good. As an English-based team, anytime that you finish above all the President's Men, lovely guys, know them, like them, they're brilliant. They are better players than us, but anytime you finish ahead of them, that obviously feels good for the old ego. Good. Actually, none of us finished with brilliant individual records. I think I finished the best with 402, and I think there were some 312s in there. We've definitely been to team tournaments and finished with better individual records and a worse overall record.
Yeah. You managed to get it so that all your losses were pretty much counterbalanced out by the other people winning, weren't they? That's
absolutely.
That's the way to do it.
One of the reasons we finished 5th, because the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th all had the same number of. Had 501 records. One of the reasons we finished 5th is because of those weaker individual records, because the tiebreakers were based on the individual records.
Yep.
But yeah, it's all fallen really, really well. I think what we can say, humans looked good. I think Golden Gate was really happy with the High Elves in the rule set. Underworld have obviously been completely neutered. So God knows what they're going to look like, because I think they've been moved up to tier 1, have they? And they've lost access to Varrow. So God knows. Do you know what? If someone wants to go to your Open or wants to play some tournaments between now and then that are using these rule sets, I thought Chaos were fine. Yeah, they're not an easy race to play. You're not going there to just go 2+2+2+ or whatever. You're not going there going, oh, everyone's got block. But they get enough. They get some extra gold because of their tier, which allows you to build with 12 players and an Apo and 3 rerolls. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the base access is 10 skills.
It's pretty good.
And it's something that you can play with. So there we go. Yeah. It's interesting, and I think while some people were obviously very upset by the rule set for Euro Bowl, and some people were very pleased about it, depending on how you feel about the way that these things should be created. The reality is, in this rule set, it feels like they've had a really good go at trying to make some races more playable than they were in a competitive environment. Again, I'm not saying that Chaos should be anyone's top 8, for a Euro Bowl team, but they certainly did feel more competitive than they normally feel in
Well,
a
that's
natural.
good. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
So, you know, there you go. That's I think that's best I can put it. I think I'm now. Yeah, I think I've crossed 160. One tournament with Chaos Online, so I think I've crossed 160 quite
Well
quickly.
done.
So we'll use them
Well done.
again.
Well done.
Yeah, good. It was good. It was good.
Very good. Very good. Well, I guess we can wrap up now, kind of thing. So we've I'm just finishing off some Super League matches on Fumble, but I've got no tournaments planned until January 2024. And then I got what have I got? I've got a team tournament, a double standards team tournament with Joe in January. I'm going up to Water Bowl in February, and I've got NAF Champs will then be the next one. When's that? April, isn't it? Yeah. Oh no, I've got another team one in March. Actually, I lie. I got another team one in March, and then I've got a NAF Champs in April May time. So that's kind of what I'm looking like for next year. What about yourself, Fear? Have you got any more stuff lined up for this year or into next year?
Yeah, I've picked up a sort of dropout spot in Super League with Chaos.
Nice.
I got a 1-1 draw in my first game. I have picked up a dropout spot to play literally one game in a resurrection tournament using the Secret League teams on Fumble.
Oh my.
Just because I've never done it, and I've got some kind of Slanesh team, I've got no real clue what I'm doing. I think I'm playing Squigs,
Brilliant.
like
Brilliant.
no idea what that's going to be. But just because I just thought it would be different, like and something that I'd want to make time for. In terms of tournaments next year, I should probably try and get myself on the reserve list for NAFC. Obviously, UKTC is the one I always go to, which I think is now in August.
Yeah, I'm
I
going there
think.
as well. Yep, yep.
And then exciting, along with a couple of other guys, K-Foged, a guy that used to be called Wolfen, that's now called Wolfie Dan, a guy called Deefa Dan, a guy called Barney the Lurker, and a guy called Speeding Bullet. And is there anybody else? I think that's a lot of us. An idea was hatched to run a six-player team tournament in the UK.
Nice.
With the thing that it's just a different kind of team tournament, the World Cup's team, all this kind of stuff. And K Fogg obviously has led on it in the sense that he was very keen to do it. Um, you know, Wolfie Dan is the guy that ran the Tackle Zone website. And I used to run Tackle Zone Star Division, and K Fogg used to run Tackle Zone Star Division on Blood Bowl 2. So there's a lot of sort of linkage there. D for Dan obviously is one of the guys that runs NAFC. Speeding Bullet runs tournaments locally in the Midlands. Not sure how Barney got involved. Probably just because he plays in the Water Bowl with some of those guys. So I mean that's going to be held on the 1st and 2nd of June next year. It's linked to the Games Expo, the Board Games Expo that goes on at the NEC.
In Birmingham, that isn't it? Yep.
Yeah, the NEC. But the reason for doing it there is just access in terms of you can get there from every part of the country. There's a lot of hotels in that near the NEC, obviously. So finding somewhere to stay should be fairly easy. And also, if we've got any visitors that want to come from abroad, flying into Birmingham Airport, and then the train link is like literally like one train or something, like one stop. It's all very very well connected together. And the timing is going to be such. I think it's going to be a 5-game tournament, which will mean that where I think the hope is that people will have also time to look at the rest of the expo
Oh, that's
if they
nice.
wish
Yeah.
to.
Yep. Very nice.
It's on Talk Fantasy Football in terms of it's been mentioned, but tickets are not for sale yet because I think we have to wait for the expo before the tickets can go on sale. And the ticket, I think we're charging a bare minimum that we can charge because you have to buy an expo ticket,
Oh, okay.
effectively.
Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
There's no way around that. They're providing a lot of the infrastructure for the tournament. But yeah, it seems like it'll be popular. K-Fogg is going to write the rules, or is writing the rules. I think they're going to be like the polar opposite of the Euro Bowl rules. I think they're going to be very, very sort of shallow tiered, and that's sort of old school competitive, I guess, that
Yep.
a lot of people talk about. We're going to have a dry run of it, in the sense that the guys that run the fumble tournaments on NAF are going to run a tournament using the rule set starting in January.
Oh,
Um,
fantastic, fantastic. So you'll be playing in that then.
I think that will also be a six player tournament. I think they think they can do it
Nice,
as a six-player
nice.
tournament. So yeah, yeah, that'll be amazing. And look, it's a really good opportunity, I guess, to get more. You're looking at, okay, why do the French so good at Blood Bowl? Why do the Germans do so well in the Yass Euro Bowl? Why are the Italians so good? This is another opportunity for people to come and play in a team tournament. That should be pretty competitive in the UK, and that can only help. That can only help in terms of, and I think that's part of the driver for KFOG in terms of wanting, to provide that six-player tournament. That sort of
Yep,
practice,
yep.
that sort of thing. Yeah, and I mean, I'm just along for the ride, really. So I might only get to three tournaments next year, so I think I'm going to try my best to play in that one. Play in
Very,
that one
very
rather
good
than
idea. Very,
yeah,
very
yeah.
good idea.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think that's it. I think that's it for me for the foreseeable. But yeah, I mean, I played that NAF tournament as well on Fumble because
Yeah.
that's actually at the moment my best access probably to playing.
Yep. No, very,
Uh,
yeah, very, very good, very good. And it's nice to hear you're back playing again. I think that's the main takeaway from this episode. It sounds like we're both back in a place where we're enjoying and have the time to play Blood Bowl a bit more. So that's only a good thing, really.
well, and the other thing is, mate, is you take time away and you think, well, will I be as good as I was before I took the time away? And then you think, do I care? And then you come back and you do all right, and you think, well, okay, well, I don't know whether I'm as good as I was before I went away, but I'm doing all right, so that's fine.
Yep. I can still see the chain pushes. I can still see that this, and it's a good idea to do that. And
Yeah,
yep,
yeah, yeah. And it's nice that you've sort of been able to find more fun back in it. I think
absolutely.
I found that a while ago with a more laissez-faire attitude towards the whole thing, in the sense of I find that I don't care, um, because it's quite the way that I did. And I think a while ago, probably 12 months ago or so, I was probably, or maybe a bit longer than that, I was probably feeling a loss of the fun. And I got that back and then just didn't have time to play. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so there we go. So, I mean, our listeners can possibly even expect another podcast at some point in the future.
I would I
Um,
would say I would safely say, Fear, that the Blood Bowl Diaries will return in 2024.
wow. Wow.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
on and I think we'll call it there. So on that bombshell, for
Mm,
British television at its best, on that
wow.
bombshell, you've been listening to the Blood Bowl Diaries with me, Doctor Hellboy.
And me, the fear.
There we go. We still got it. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back in 2024. Bye.
Bye.